Hey, what's up everybody? It's Lids and we're back for some more Mardek, and of course last time we made our way into the Cambria Arena area, and we were talking about how there are now two kinds of arenas. Both the full-blown party version of the arena, the kind that we saw in Chapter 2, and also a version that is new to Chapter 3, arena competitions that are specifically for just one member of our party at a time. So, I think what we're going to do now is we're going to select one of our party members and prep them for their arena run, and I'm thinking that we might want to take Gloria first here, because Gloria is versatile, and there are a few things with her that I want to make sure that we have the chance of doing, because we have not yet done a few things that I think will make a big difference there. So, of course, we were talking about, over the course of this entire playthrough, just how much are we going to do with regard to mastering skills, and, well, if we were to say, look at Gloria here, we could see that sure, there are definitely things that she has not yet mastered, things like defensive reactions, certainly plenty passive, though it would take us a very long time if we were to make a point of mastering absolutely everything that she has not yet mastered in preparation for this arena run, and I don't necessarily think that that is necessary. So instead what we're going to do is we're going to make a point of picking up any active skills that she has not yet learned, because I noticed that as it turns out here, you might have noticed that there's some notable exceptions. We have a fair bit of water, air, and lots of earth abilities here, but what happened to the fire? Yeah, so I may have just totally forgotten about it, because as it turns out here, yeah, we had this fire staff all along, and it gives us the wildfire, which is her fire offensive spell, null fire once, which I'm pretty sure we were relying on Donovan once for, even though we could have theoretically used Gloria and learned the ability by picking up the ability from this here staff. And also, offensive physical reactions, I mean, those aren't going to be a huge difference maker, but sure. Then, I mean, it's Fire Elemental and +1 Spirit, yes. So we should definitely make a point of using this, so that we shall do. And then there are a few other things that I also think we'll want to check in on with Gloria. So let's pick her up here, and then we can also warp out, because I think, yes, we could, of course, make a point of mastering those things just about anywhere, but there are a few other things that I want to make sure that we spend a little bit of time doing, because remember, we were, of course, just recently doing a bunch of crafting with the Xanthusian blacksmith, and also we were making a point of crafting at Meridor's workbench. There is, however, one other kind of crafting that we can do, and we saw it, and we were thinking about it, perhaps even trying to do it previously, that being using the cauldron here. However, when you are trying to use the cauldron, you need to have Gloria in your party, and we may have not had her in our party when we did that previously. I think we were suspecting that that might be a requirement, but that is, of course, similar to what we saw with Meridor and his workbench, so same deal here. So this is new to us. We can make potions, is the general idea. So everything from better potions, which, as we said, well, with them restoring 200 HP, those aren't terribly useful for us right now, but mugwort juice, 500 HP, or even fig juice for 2,000, those are certainly things we'd like to pick up. Remedies, we've certainly bought our fair share of those from shopkeepers, but to be able to create them, that would also be useful. Heather for MP restoration. Elixir, now that's the big one. That one is all HP and MP. That'd be great. And then I was talking before about how speedy juices, the ones that give us haste, healthy juices, the ones that give us regen, and angry juice, the one that gives us berserker rage. We have picked up one or two of these in random chests here and there, but to be able to consistently create them is certainly a big benefit of being able to use the cauldron here with Gloria. Similar story with the mirror elixirs. We even used some of these to craft, I believe it was the mithril plate mail that we just put on Mardek, so this being the one that gives us both physical and magical shield. Noxious bombs, we've used this on one or two occasions against particularly difficult opponents, so also very helpful indeed. Then we have power drink, which we haven't seen too much of, but I think similar idea. We've picked up one, maybe two of them along the way. Gives us 1,000 HP and increases strength by 10, so a bit of a hybrid potion of sorts. Then magic drink, MP, and spirit. Rainbow juice gives nulls for everything, so that is fantastic. And in this one, I don't believe we've seen before. Zombie juice. It's a terrible curse potion, which makes any flesh it touches necrotic, effectively turning a person into a zombie. Best used against foes. not friends. I hope so. So yes, this basically is a potion that causes zombification, and not so surprisingly, requires that we put in basically all the crafting items from undead opponents. So let's perhaps duck back over to the save crystal over here, which conveniently is right next to the cauldron, and make a point of picking up any of those crafting items that we may not have on hand at the moment, because I think we have most of them, yes, but maybe not entirely all of them. So I think even some of the better potions and things of that sort do require that we throw on normal potions to create. So we might not be focusing too much on creating those, but other than that, I think we're going to want some of these Shaman Regents that we saw previously, and we were wondering to ourselves, when are we ever going to use these? And, well, this is the answer. We saw that some of those potions do require these, and then I think I'm still noticing that we are missing the items that are from those undead enemies, which we may have thrown somewhere else because they were quite plentiful, so we had to dump them. So what I'm noticing is we may not have quite as many of those items that come from those undead enemies as we have had previously. Those might have been high on our list of things that we decided to sell when we figured that, well, we could use some coins and we are unlikely to need all these items, but this is, of course, the time when we're going to want them, so let's just double check. What can we make here? It's like maybe the zombie juice. I thought had zombie dust, yes. Dead hand we do as well, but I'm not seeing any old bones. Once upon a time we had a ton of those, but apparently not anymore. So, okay, I mean, this would be interesting to create, yes, and at some point perhaps when we do have old bones we would like to do that, but not currently possible. And the other thing is, we were talking previously about air essences and whether we'd be able to get more of those in the future, and the answer is yes. However, we will need to wait a little bit before that's possible. We don't have any air essence right now, so we unfortunately cannot make any more of these rainbow juices, which would be great. But as for other things like, the magic drink? Okay, so on Gloria we actually have the items for this. If we use the human skull from you, and then Mardek, I think, had the crystal tears, so we throw one of these on, and then we find that we can make a magic drink for the MP and spirit boosting. So that looks good. And then similar story for the Manted Wing and Monster Fang on the HP and strength on the power drink. See if we can make that happen. I think we should be able to do that because, yes, we have another Manted Wing right here. And then the Monster Fang, I believe Mardek has those. So we can make another. So yes, we won't necessarily have the ability to make a ton of these, but just making a point of picking up more where we can. And we might find that some of these items we can make a fair number of. Like zombie dust, I think, is pretty plentiful. That's one that we've sold a lot of. And then bat wings. Or acid seed, I think Mardek has that. There we go. And of course these noxious bombs, they are strong. So pick up more is never a bad thing, I don't think. Other than that, Mirror Elixirs, we actually have at least 3 of those, so maybe we don't need to throw one on, although Mage Crystal, Big Creepy Eye, and Crystal Tears, I think we have plenty of those as well, so why not make it? So Mardek also has the Crystal Tears, and then Gloria here has the Eyeballs. Another one of these. Okay. And then, as for the Berserker Rage, I think of these items here, this is probably one of the lowest on the list because Rage, of course, means that you cannot use any of your active skills, you're just using default attacks, and for some people that can work out if you have a strong weapon and you don't need to use your skills all that often, but for most people that's going to be a pretty big handicap, so I think we probably don't want to spend too much time working on that. As for the regen potion, that might not be a bad idea. If we were to put in some lizard tails, and then skulls, and then slime jams. Make another one of these. And then we'll just throw these all in Gloria's inventory for now. Then next, the Speedy Juice is fantastic if and when you are finding yourself without the Yellow Fairy. So if you did in fact turn it in, then this is of course one of, if not the only ways of getting this status on your characters. But it does require that we use a Griffin Feather, which is pretty rare. We, at the moment, have precisely one. So let's hold off on that, and we will, I think, for the most part, be relying on this yellow fairy to make it happen. The elixirs, I would like to have the chance to make more of those, because those are quite potent. And I think in order to do that, we kind of need to build up, going from a normal potion to a better potion, to a mugwort juice, to a fig juice, and then from fig juice into this guy here. So, do we have enough fig juices lying around, or should we make more of those? I think that's probably not a bad idea. So what if we just make all the better potions in the world? This could take a little while, I feel. Because, well, we do have a fair number of these guys. So maybe it's not so much a question of making the better potions as much as it's converting the better potions into the mugwort juices, the next tier up. Let's look at what that takes. Actually takes, oh, just mugwort and water essence. So, interestingly, there's no need for better potions at all. Are they needed for one of the future versions? No, not at all. So you know what? Good thing we checked. That means that Mardek, for you, water essence and mugwort, I think those are both on your inventory right now. There we go. It actually gives you 10 as well. That is pretty fantastic. Now, bear in mind, water essence, we can make more of those, yes. However, that is somewhat reliant on you being able to get back into the water temple, and we did make a point of picking up additional oxale from the shaman in Gosnor when we were making that potion. Remember, we had to make the potion to breathe underwater, because we no longer have access to the Aqua Lung ability from Emila. So, it is actually pretty useful to pick up more of those, even if the shaman gives you a little bit of attitude for it, so that way, if we find that we're low on water essences, we can always go back and fight more of those guys. Similar story with the silver axe for Slinik. We saw that the axolotls, specifically in the water temple, have the chance of dropping that, which would mean that we wouldn't have to make it from the blacksmith back in Xantusia, and it would save us a silver ore in the process, which is, of course, a big gain. So, that is another reason why it is perhaps useful to make a point of picking up more of those. Fortunately, we have plenty stockpiled up in item storage at the moment, I believe. Let's maybe go one more round of mugwort and water essence, because, at least at the moment, we don't have a ton of those. Like I said, we could go back to pick up more, yes, but as of right now, this is our stock. Then, in order to make fig juices, oh, tell you what, once again, does not require the previous version. So, I mean, these are still 500 HP, which I think is powerful enough that we're still going to find times when these are useful, but of course, the fig juices are still objectively better. So it takes water and fig essence and light essence. It's actually all essences. So light, as I was saying, that's another one that is difficult to find. Water essence and then fig essence, those, although fig in general is a fairly rare element, that's actually arguably the easiest one for us to get, because, well, we can just go to the Dream Realm and almost everyone in the Dream Realm will drop those fig essences. That gives us a lot of those, and then that means that in order to make the elixirs, the fully restore HP and MP potions, then, well, these things should be pretty doable here, I think. Ether Crystal Tears, that's the one that we may only have a few remaining of. And then, oh, Light Essence for that as well. Yeah, so that too. But there we have another one of these, and just for context, at shops, I believe these cost 9,999 coins, so it's a lot. So that is very useful to pick this up here. Other than that, I think we're probably doing okay here. Things like ethers and remedies we can always buy from shopkeepers. Of course, this is probably a little less expensive to do it this way if we were to just use the materials that we make ourselves. So, when we can, perhaps worthwhile to double back here and make a point of crafting things here. But there's another reason why we're over in this direction. That being that, well, okay, it's not actually in Canonia here. However, if we were to warp once more... Oh, actually, we're not allowed to warp when we're in the city? They aren't a fan of us using magic in here, I suppose? Apparently not. But we'll head on out. Shouldn't be too much of an ask. And then there is an area that's nearby that we will also want to visit. That being the Dream Cave, because if you remember, not so long ago, we made a point of flipping some switches, and they were in a distant place, most recent actually being the Earth Temple, but that was the final switch here that we needed in order to get through this area here. If we look at our map here, you may remember that previously we saw that this pathway was blocked by those three walls. Now they're all gone, so we can head on over, if we go in the right direction, which we are currently not doing, and then we will hopefully find our way over to those 2 chests, and of course we did also proceed to put on next to nothing on Gloria, so, I mean, at least at the moment, can we just throw some of this stuff on, because it is possible, of course, for you to run into enemies here, so not necessarily sure we're going to have enough time to master this ability in the next few steps, probably pretty unlikely, but just to give you something defensively so that you're not completely vulnerable here for the time being. And in terms of your accessories thought, you actually have not mastered Resist Earth. So let's throw that on. That being the Resist Earth magic reaction, I should say. So if we take off Fire, put on Earth here, then you are pretty full on magic defensive reactions, and then we could just throw something else on your other accessory spot. And tell you what if we give you the Yellow Fairy here to give you auto haste? That way, if we were trying to make a point of using abilities like Wildfire and Nullfire once, we can use them twice as often. So not only does it make you more powerful, it also makes it quicker for us to master those abilities with you. That would be great. And then Mardek, throw on an Evening Star? I don't really know. Again, this is really temporary here, mostly just so that we aren't having completely empty spots on these characters for the time being. And Gloria, as for your helmet, let's see, is there anything else we can put there that you've not yet learned? Have you done the damage soak 20? I don't think that's a huge pickup, but oh, you're actually not allowed to because that's a full-blown helmet. It's a little too big for you. So, do we have alternatives in that case? Do we have anything else hanging out in our inventory? We do have this, which you have already mastered, but it's at least something, so that if we do get attacked on our way over here, which seems pretty likely, there we go, then at least we have stuff on. These guys normally go first, these Caprian arrows here, because they have 18 agility, but we have Zach with us at the moment, and he is on 21, so he's speedier, and he's using the new Yin and Yang weapon. So this is what it looks like, and he has the new ability with it, Immoral Injustice, which deals great damage to both light and dark elemental opponents. Now, of course, these guys here are not light or dark elemental. They, however, don't have any resistance to dark, so something like Sin Strike might be a reasonable idea here. About 400 damage, and of course, every kill increases the amount of damage that you will do with it, so it's good for Zach. Okay, so here's Gloria. She will, of course, go twice because we put on the haste, so this is her first turn. I want to make a point of using Wildfire. And I'm kind of hoping it doesn't take you out, but it does, because we would like to take as many turns as possible with her. There's one use for it, and there is a purple conch. We were talking previously about how we weren't necessarily sure if we could get more of those. However, we of course did confirm once we fought more of these guys that it is possible. But here is the area where there are 2 chests. And what will we find here? We will find a Dreamstone, Dreamstone number 12, and also Yggdrasil's finger. I don't know how you're supposed to say that, but a branch from a mighty legendary celestial tree crafted into a magical staff. So this is actually Gloria's most powerful staff. So we couldn't get in here until we had made it through several different areas, the last of which was the Earth Temple. So that's why it takes a little while to get to this, but it gives us 35 attack relative to the 26 from the Fire Staff that we are going to continue to use, at least for the moment, so that we can master Wildfire, Nullfire once, and maybe also the offensive reaction there. But this guy, yes, does have the higher attack, has Mass Cleanse, which is a new active ability, also plus 30% magic damage, which is probably a little bit more meaningful for Gloria because, generally speaking, she's going to use a lot more spells than she will attacks. Plus 20% MP, she's already mastered that. Also, plus 3 Spirit for a spellcaster, again, not bad, and the Empower Elements is a nice gesture, yes, even if it does nothing. So I think we'll stick with the Fire Staff at least for now. But as I was saying, I think the primary thing that we want to do in preparation for her going into her arena is to make sure that we pick up Wildfire and Nullfire once, the plus 20% physical offensive reaction. Not crucial, I don't think. Then we'll throw on Yggdrasil's finger, and of course we don't need to master these things immediately. If we just put on the item, we'll have access to them for that reason. So that means that first and foremost, we want to make sure that we master these things here, and then any other things we want to make a point of picking up before we go into that fight. So if there are any major skills of the offensive or defensive reaction or passive variety, then we can pick those up now. So sure, we can, at least for the time being, throw on plus 20% damage. If we don't find that we master this terribly quickly, then I think we can pass on it. Other than that, though, yeah, these would be nice to pick up. Maybe not necessary, per se. But then, on the passive side, I see that she has Mastered, Resist, Earth, and Dark. Those are probably the two things that we want to make sure that everyone, or at least most people, do master, because being able to put on additional elemental resistances, that's going to be one thing we want to do for those fights, is master as many of our active skills as we can, maximize our elemental resistances. Those are probably priorities 1 and 2, and they're pretty close to one another. Then, on top of that, maximizing HP and MP, of course, leveling up in and of itself will improve their HP and MP, so that's something. Also, in terms of throwing on attributes, that's nice, but we'd probably prioritize 1 or 2 status immunities on top of that. Of course, if we're going into an extended set of fights against any of a number of enemies, then we could find ourselves going against, in one round, enemies that could poison us, in another round, enemies that could make us go to sleep. So, hard to plan around that one definitively, but if there's one in particular that we know is going to be a big issue for some, like, say, for example, numbness on people who are physical attackers, that would basically shut them down entirely if they were to become numbed, so we want to probably make a point of throwing on those. As for spellcasters, things like maybe Purity for Curse Immunity might be the most important one, things of that sort. Insomnia, you could maybe argue, is somewhere up there as well, because of course if you go to sleep then you can't do anything at all. But I think we want to make sure that we get Resist Ether mastered, because she is close to that, and that would be the extent to which she can pick up these resistances, and she has also mastered the Rainbow Ore, which is more difficult to do because that costs 10 RP, but that might be something that's nice to have, because getting 20% elemental resistances is at least versatile. Maybe not quite as specialized as Dark or Earth or Ether, but still, certainly not bad. Do we happen to have anything on hand right now that can give us access to that ability? I think we may. We do. Let's throw on a turquoise instead of, say, maybe it would be nice to have the yellow fairy. I think we get rid of the Earth Pendant, because that one's hard to control. Having people target her with magic abilities is... There are some ways to make it happen. Remember, the elements in all of the temples will have a reaction when we hit them with physical attacks. They'll cast a spell at the attacker then. That's probably the best way to make it happen. But at least at the moment, we are not at any of those temples, so let's perhaps focus instead, for right now, on maybe getting rid of Rainbow Aura, at least for now, throwing on Resist Ether. She's only 20 battles away, which is not bad. And then let's just make sure other things that are new, get those activated, and yes, we do. So, let's try this out. Again, the primary objective for now will be those passive skills and the active fire skills from her current staff, so that we can transition back over to her preferred staff. So, where is the best place to do that? Because we could make a point of going somewhere else where we can face enemies that are ideal for this set of circumstances. There are few directions in which you could go. You could deliberately go to a place with low-level enemies, in which case we could go to some place like Soothwood over here. That way you are basically capable of taking people out almost immediately whenever you start a battle. We could even make a point of making Gloria faster if we wanted to, so that she's going first every battle. Throwing on something like the Boots of Celerity, because otherwise it's going to be Zack. That's not the end of the world. Zack can just pass as soon as it reaches his turn, and then we go straight to Gloria after that. Other thing is, in here we could pick up more of those regents from the Shaman. That's another reason to head over. Oh, the Shaman actually had things to say to us? If you still wish to seek out the other crystals, you will have to travel around, asking other people about their whereabouts. It is true that I know the locations of them all, but I simply will not be more part of this than I already have. Especially if something ill is to come of it, directly or indirectly. I am sorry, but this is the way it must be. I still have some of the oxale remaining. Could you ever require to go back down to the water temple? Merely return here and ask. Okay, so there's confirmation that we can, in fact, make a point of picking up more oxale even after we've initially gone down there, and he will give it to us right now. And I thought that we were able to purchase the regents from you, but I know the Aeropolis shaman does that. Maybe you don't? But anyways, so we could make a point, what I'm saying is, of going into these fights like this and taking Gloria and maybe just use Wildfire against precisely one enemy. So that's one use, and then we just use it one at a time on all these people, and doesn't even matter if we hit our reactions or not, to be honest. We will probably still master those abilities there. Now, Slinick is also looking to master Fire Stream. This, we were talking about previously, it's like Fire Breath, except it targets all enemies simultaneously, so let's give this a shot, because I don't think we've done it yet, just to show you what it's all about. And yes, it looks just like Fire Breath, except it hits everyone simultaneously. Which does, of course, mean that we'll be taking people out a little more quickly in these fights here if we were to go that route. So I think let's focus on Gloria for now. She is our key person. We're going to use her first for her trial, so let's make sure that she masters her abilities over Linux, at least for now. So Zach, you can pass. Gloria, Wildfire. So this is one course of action we could take. The primary purpose of this is to be able to take people out as quickly and easily as possible. Other reason would be if you want to make sure that people are attacking you physically, then we could deliberately just have everyone pass their turns and have those fish hit us non-stop, and we would probably take next to no damage, or no damage at all in the process. So it's a safe way of making that happen. But as I was saying, I think that defensive reactions, we're not gonna spend as much time on those, because generally speaking, those are still a little bit more difficult to make happen. So I think mostly just showing you this for the sake of giving you ideas as to how to make this happen. If you're feeling like you want to level up and master skills in preparation for your arena battles. So deliberately, again, going to only take out one at a time with Gloria, and then since she has haste, she goes again. And that way things will go a little bit faster. Twice as fast, really. And precisely one gold coin is also perhaps reason why it's maybe not the best option for us. So what are some other alternatives? We could go to a place where we are expecting to have stronger enemies so that we can get better gold, experience, items. And one such place, at least while we're in this area, would be to, say, go into the House of Wood, Saul's house. Because we were talking about how at least at one point we had a ton of items from undead enemies, but right now we don't. And there are several things that only drop from enemies in here, so in terms of places that drop good items, this is really top of the list. Besides, maybe some endgame areas, like of course we went to the Mysel Citadel, where we saw that we can pick up mithril ore and other things of that sort that are very unlikely or outright impossible to pick up anywhere else. So, Zach, we're still going to pass with you. Notably, these guys are stronger, so if we let them take turn after turn, then that will start to add up. As you see there, Slinick is already on less than half HP, so let's make sure we get rid of at least one here for these green souls. And it is just barely enough damage to do that. Mardek, you can heal, I suppose. Let's not have Slinick sacrificed in the process. Gloria, back to you. Another Wildfire, please. And of course, it is also beneficial when we have battles against multiple enemies simultaneously. That way we don't have to do as much travel in between fights. Now, Mardek and Curse is a little unfortunate. 3 Wildfires. And a lot more in the way of coins. In fact, a couple of orders of magnitude more. And here's the way out of here. So, remember, we will be facing any of a number of undead enemies here, including these guys. So, notably, the blood zombies are the ones that carry the blood sword, and I do believe they have a chance of dropping it. It is really low, so we could deliberately make a point of doing something like putting on Loot Finder on Mardek right now. I'm not sure if he has it at the moment. Also, we should make a point of removing his curse. But as of right now, we'll stick to Wildfires. The other thing is that fire damage tends to be fairly effective against undead enemies. So that's another reason to go here. And holy water will remove curse, yes. So we can do that. So Nick, we'll pass with you once more. Gloria, wildfires, just one at a time, one at a time. The rot rats will be after Zach here. They can, yes, zombify, notably. And we definitely don't want them to do that on Gloria. Now, theoretically, I could deliberately hit that reaction so that Gloria would get close to mastering her offensive reaction, because she does have one she's trying to learn, but probably still for the best if we don't do that against our own party members. So I think we could, of course, make a point of de-zombifying these people here, or we could just have Slinick use, well, I was gonna say something like Fire Stream to take out both these rot rats simultaneously, but that's not possible because Slinick, you don't have enough RP right now, so maybe we just go with a physical attack from you. And oh, okay, I mean, that time I did hit the reaction. I wasn't even realizing that that was Gloria's turn because, well, she goes twice and had to remind myself of that. These guys are Dark Elemental, which means that something like Immoral Injustice would work against them. Now remember that in the past, I've talked about how Zach, generally speaking, is not going to use MP. And I always said generally, not always, because there is one ability that uses MP, and it is the last one that we picked up here, Immoral Injustice. So it does use 10 MP, but it is very effective at taking out Dark Elemental or Light Elemental enemies. And there is some of the stuff that we were saying earlier that we would like to pick up more of. Zombie Dust, Lead Pipes, Holy Water. And since we do have some zombified friends at the moment, we would like to make a point to head over to that save crystal as soon as possible to de-zombify them. That would be rather nice, especially since, well, I'm gonna skip that battle deliberately. Especially because the person who we are trying to make a point of using skills with was a zombie just then. So, now that they are healed up, should be fine in that regard. And we'll, I think, more or less just do one round through here. And or make a point of making sure that we master the abilities with Gloria. And we're gonna target Slinick once more. Now, a little bit of everyone. Okay, more wildfires. And once again, should be enough damage, so no problems there. Everyone else, I think you probably still pass. And since we can take out 2 with Gloria here, that means that you should only be seeing one more set of attacks here. So it shouldn't be too bad. And Gloria actually does have a magic defensive reaction that she has, the resist spells, so we just saw it work there, and like I was saying before, we're not necessarily positive that we're going to be able to master that in the time being, but if we can, then great. And now we are almost 75% of the way done already. So it is going rather quickly. For ectoplasm as well, that's another thing that we were saying. Sure, we had fought plenty of spirits earlier, but this is another place to get more of that. And, well, how do we get out of here? The answer is up, this way, and then to the left. Lots of ghouls, and these guys are quick. So they will go immediately after Zach. All 4 of them will have a chance to attack. Fortunately, they miss Zach. Zach also, I believe, has a defensive reaction that he's trying to master, and it is the one that gives him plus 50% evasion. That is likely why he evaded both of those attacks there. Wildfires, I think this should be plenty of damage against these guys, because, like we were saying before, generally speaking, undead enemies are weak to fire. So that should do it. And we'll pass with everyone else. And I suppose we'll take out the next strongest one here. Attack next, but afterward these guys will go. And Mardek, oh actually Mardek does need a defensive reaction as well. I'm not sure if we double checked with him, because we did put on the Mithril Plate Mail, which is partially why he's taken 0 damage from basically all these attacks. So maybe worth double checking that at the end of this fight here. Mardek, of course, probably will need the least prep, and may not need any prep, in advance of his personal arena fight because, well, he spent more time than anyone in our party. And now, with 17 out of 20 of those wildfires done, we should just need 1, maybe 2 more battles until Gloria will be done with that. she does also have Null Fire once from this staff. Now that will be easier to master because we can just do them all in one fight and make a point of not taking out the enemy. So that would have been one that might have made sense in the low level area because it does mean that we'll have enemies attacking us. But here are 3 enemies, so that's all the 3 we'll need to master Wildfire. Just as long as you don't zombify Gloria. Thank you for not doing that. Let's make a point of targeting the rot rats first for that reason, because that would spoil our plan a little bit. Others will pass. Take out the other rot rat. And the ghoul will go. And even that attack, 0 damage against Mardek. Again, really strong defenses. He's all the way up at 28 right now, which, yeah, that is on par with many enemies that we would normally say just don't attack them with physical attacks. Their defense is just too high. So that's big. And then here is the last Wildfire that we needed from Gloria. Like I was saying, we will still want to hold on to the staff a little while longer to master Null Fire once. So that's next on our list after Wildfire. Then we can swap on over to her new staff. And how do we get out of here? That's how we do it. Next save crystal, I believe, is down in this direction. Or something like this. Oh no, up. Up first. Okay. So we could perhaps make a point of taking out all but one of these guys to minimize the damage while Gloria is spending some time putting on some Null Fires. So we could do things like a Moral Injustice and see how much damage it does to these guys, and the answer is still quite a lot. And yeah, if you want to attack Zach, that's fine. Mardek, also fine. I think most people need those defensive reactions right now. So Wildfire's done. What we want to do is Null Fire once. Only takes 10 uses. So that'll be a little bit quicker, and it doesn't involve taking enemies out, which is why we can do it in one battle here and not have to worry about several rounds of fights. So Mardek, I mean, we could deliberately throw on some regeneration for Gloria, because she's taking a bit of damage here. And Slinik, I mean, we do want to master Fire Stream, but this is probably not the time to do it, because it would almost certainly take out everyone. So we can try to do this. And I'd say you succeeded. I'd say you succeeded. Null Fire on other people who won't need it in this fight, because these guys cannot deal any fire damage, but you know what? That's not the problem. The problem is just mastering the ability. So now with only 1 left, we'll probably leave things here. Basically, the objective there was to minimize the damage that we were going to take. If we had 3 ghouls attacking us, then that's not as good as just having 1 ghoul attacking us, unless we were feeling like, yeah, we want to master our defensive reactions as quickly as possible, in which case, keeping as many alive as possible, there is something to be said for that. That wasn't necessarily the primary thing I was looking for here. Again, if we were trying to do that, then it would have probably been best to instead do that in a low-level area where we would have no concerns at all about how much damage they were dealing. Against Mardek, it's certainly not a problem. Against the others, well, against Slinik, when he has the Night Jacket on, so he has more than 100% Dark Resistance, that's definitely not a problem either. Zach, I suppose, if they ever do manage to hit him with his 70% evasion, then he may still take a little bit of damage, but also, getting hit so infrequently that probably not a concern. And as for Gloria, you are now on, what will this be? 6 uses, so almost there. And Gloria, I'm not sure if you have a physical defensive reaction that you're working on at the moment. You may not. You may not, in which case, there definitely are still things for you to learn, it's just that we have other things that we have to put on, equipment-wise, for you to learn these other skills, whether they be passive or active. So we're almost there. But this guy will get one more chance to attack, and it will be against Gloria. But one more, and we'll have it. And then after that, we'll be okay with swapping over to her ideal staff. And then at that point, that means that we will more or less, I think, be ready. Go over into the arena. So there it is. No fire once mastered. And then Zach, perhaps you can do the honors with an immoral injustice here. And Slinik, I believe that was, leveling up in the process. More zombie dust. Some more monies, and no fire once now mastered. So, we can now switch over from the fire staff onto... Here it is. For a second I was like, oh, did we leave it in item storage? The Yggdrasil's Finger. And so we were talking about how it gives us a new active skill as well as magic offense reaction. Let's put those on now. So, well, you have plenty of RP to make this happen, and we might even want to make a point of putting on an item that gives us plus 10% magic damage. I believe there are some helmets that do that, and we don't necessarily have a great helmet on you right now. Well, okay, I was going to say, is it your helmet that gives the plus 10% damage? I know that your helmet does give some kind of magic offensive reaction. It's the 20% one, not the 10% one. That would have looked pretty bad if you had not mastered the skill from your own starting helmet. I think that means that it is Meriador's helmet that gives it on the helmet spot, if I'm not mistaken, so that should be a pretty quick pickup. Because, of course, Gloria's going to be using spells pretty often. So if we were to say, go here real quick. Okay, here it is in item storage. Let's focus on Gloria. And there we see that, yes, it does have the plus 10% magic damage offensive reaction, as well as the plus 50% accuracy physical offensive reaction. Again, with spellcasters, I don't think that's going to be too much of a concern, but maximizing your offensive firepower for spells, that probably is worth doing here. So even if that isn't necessarily going to be the helmet that we want to use in the arena fight itself, making a point of picking that up and mastering the ability from it at the moment is probably still worthwhile. Then against these guys, we can do more Immoral Injustice, and it is still extremely effective against all these dark elemental undead enemies. So, Gloria, you don't need to use any of the abilities right now, because you've mastered this stuff, except for Mass Cleanse is coming from your new staff here. Now, of course, we're going to be holding on to this staff, so no need to master it right now, per se, but it channels the power of the earth to cure most negative status effects from all allies. Wow. Okay, it costs 34 MP, but basically removes all negative status effects, or almost all negative status effects, so that is covering for something that previously only Mardek would be able to do, or otherwise people using items that they happen to have in their inventory. So to have you be able to use that to remove negative statuses, use the nulls of now every element, and deal either earth, air, water, or fire damage means that, Gloria, you have now become arguably our most versatile character. You could make the case she was already, but for that reason, I think that is a big deal that we picked up all this stuff here, and I think we actually will want to use Wildfire against these guys, because, like we were saying before, fire is good against undead enemies. I missed that reaction there. Zach, I'm not sure you have anything in the way of magic defensive reactions that you're working on. So, well, Mardek, I mean, we could pass with you, because you don't really have stuff that you need right now, but we do have MP back for Slinik, so you could go to using some Fire Stream there, and yes, it is quite effective in situations like this. So maybe we'll just make a point of mastering the magic offensive reaction on Gloria, and then I think we will be good to go. We'll just want to make a point of throwing on the equipment and items, potions, things of that nature for her, so that she's primed and ready to go. So Zach, why don't we do some more Immoral Injustice here? Still just as good. And then Gloria, you could... I think Wildfire is the best answer against these green souls. Yes, it will be. Less resistance to fire, even if it's still 50% resistance. So, let's make sure you're doing that rather than physical attack there. Yeah, you were using it. We're good. Also reduces strength, as all of her other spells do as well. The water ability reduces spirit, the earth ability reduces vitality, air ability reduces agility, and fire reduces strength. Mardek, I think we pass on you once more because we aren't as concerned. Slinik, I think let's give Gloria a little bit more time to use things like either Wildfire or could even use a max cleanse just to see what it looks like. We'll, of course, target everyone, and, well, it looks nice and earthy, which is fitting, of course. And notably, the Blood Zombie attacks Slinick with dark damage and has Leech. However, because Slinick has 170% dark resistance, that actually damaged the Blood Zombie when he tried to leech the damage from it. So, we indirectly hurt him there. And Zach, I mean, you could still use a Moral Injustice here. Yeah, sure. Just want to make sure that we're using abilities that we need to master here. And yes, Gloria is the person we want to prioritize over others, of course. But if and when there are opportunities for Zach and Slinick to do that as well, without at least, you know, immediately winning the battle and taking away opportunities for Gloria, like using Firestream a little bit more reluctant to do that because it takes out everyone simultaneously, whereas Gloria can take one out at a time. That means more opportunities for her to master those skills. Same thing with Zach, with the Moral Injustice. And, you know, if these guys infect people, then yes, that does also make things a little more complicated. So can we remove zombification with Mass Cleanse? That's a good question. Zach, will you get rid of it? You will. So there is a practical purpose for it. Not just using it for the sake of using it, or mastering it. So Mardek, again, I think we pass with you. Slinick, like I was saying, we could Firestream. It does only take 10 uses to master, but it would make it so that we'd be finishing this fight up a little bit on the early side. So let's perhaps instead make a point of using more max cleanses here. Again, it doesn't really matter which magic ability we're using with Gloria, as long as we hit our reactions there. Even for spells that don't deal damage directly, we still have that bar go across, so we can still learn those reactions. As long as it's a spell, it works. And then Mardek got zombified, so yes, definitely do want to remove that. There you see, yup, bar still going across the bottom, even though we're not dealing damage or healing a certain amount with this spell here. So Mardek does mean that you're not dealing damage to our own party with that turn, so that's good. Then Slinick, I suppose, when there's only one enemy left, does mean that Firestream is, well, not really doing its big thing of targeting everyone here, because there's only one enemy, but also means that you're not stealing other opportunities from other people. So let's just perhaps double back real quick and go to the save crystal, because one thing about Mass Cleanse is it does use a ton of MP. I think it was 34 MP per use, so gonna blow through our MP very quickly if we use that aggressively. Now, I think it's not gonna be something we're gonna need to use all that often. It's mostly a big bailout if we find that, say, we're in one of those pixie fights or fairy fights and everyone in the party gets a status on them, then we can remove them in one fell swoop. That is great. Zombies, it's been a while since we've seen these guys. Have we? No, we've seen them down here. What am I saying? I take it back. Of course, we saw a ton of them back in Chapter 2, but Chapter 3, a little less so. So we could Mass Cleanse. Again, we don't necessarily need to master it if we're going to continue to use this staff, but why not? If we're going to use just any old ability, then we might as well use the one that we need to master. So Mardek, you don't have anything at all. And Slinick, again, we're going to pass on the Firestream for now. And just use Mass Cleanse. And interestingly, the zombies do just a bit of magic here. And physical attacks, more the type of thing that we might have been expecting. So then more Moral Injustice. And more Mass Cleansing, please. Even if it's not strictly necessary. And passing with Mardek. And Slinick. And Gloria. More of the same, please. Like there you see, we now only have enough MP to do one more of those. Or we don't have enough. Because, yes, it uses that much. Of course, we've used it several times in this fight here. But in long fights, maybe against major bosses, we could find that we very well may need to use it this often. Or at least over the course of the entire battle, we might need to use it 5 or however many times we used it in this fight. So one enemy left, I think. Now, Slinick, same idea here. You can use Firestream because I just don't want to delete everyone in one turn and prevent Zach or Gloria from using more of their abilities. And there is the offensive reaction mastered for Gloria. So that is done. So for that reason, like I said, we don't really need to master the new Mass Cleanse ability right now. So I think we are good on that front. Let us head back over, out of here, to the, Cambria Arena. And I think next time round, we will be prepared to head on out and try it out for us. Gloria will be our guinea pig of sorts, being the first one to step in there and see what it's all about. We know it's going to be 10 rounds, and like we were saying, against a variety of different enemies, so trying to prepare ourselves for whatever the arena might throw at us. Can be a bit of a guessing game, of course, trying to anticipate what that might be, but like we were saying, load up on as many resistances as we can, as well as mastering all the active skills as we just did, or at least the ones that we need to master. Did pick up the new magic offensive reaction that we were using on the helmet, so we could swap something else in there. This one's coming from the staff, and that's not going to change, so no issues there. Other thing was, I suppose, still have 7 more fights until she masters Resist Ether. Perhaps there's still reason to make a point of making that happen, but for the most part, I think that that's going to be fairly unusual for us to find enemies that are dealing Ether damage. Dark and Earth, I think, will be far more common, so we may still be in okay shape there. That is something that, under more ideal circumstances, with a little more time, we would perhaps want to do that on other people. We'll have to see what the state is on other people as they are prepping to go into their arena runs. But with that, I leave you off here, and like I said, next time, we will venture in and see what it's all about with Gloria. So, I'll catch you then.